Hi, this is Ray with PhoneArena, and you're watching our video comparison between the Sony Xperia Z1 and the Samsung Galaxy S4. So the excitement prior to the Z1's introduction was quite big, and for a reason, because it turned out that the Xperia Z1 is one of the better Android smartphones for the second half of the year. But is it good enough to defeat what was one of the best Android smartphones for the first half of the year? Even though the Xperia Z1 has the benefit of coming out about half a year after the Samsung Galaxy S4, we can imagine that it's still quite scary to face Samsung's finest. After all, the GS4 has such a loyal following behind it. But scary or not, that's exactly what the Xperia Z1 will have to do right here. Armed with its quality design, powerful chipset and astonishing camera, the Z1 will try to prove that it is really better than the Galaxy S4. There are both good and bad things going for the designs of the Xperia Z1 and the Galaxy S4. While both handsets should be considered unisex, the GS4 has a somewhat more feminine look, especially when in white. That's not a bad thing, of course, but if we had to select the smartphone with the more impressive exterior, we would go for the Xperia Z1. Not only does it look fancier, but it also sports a higher quality construction thanks to its tough front and back glass panels, as well as classy aluminum frame that unites it all into one appealing device. Meanwhile, the Galaxy S4 isn't bad as far as appearance goes, but it's not necessarily eye-catchy, plus its flimsy plastic construction is anything but premium. Neither the buttons of the Xperia Z1 nor those of the Galaxy S4 are very good, but they're all decent. One thing that the GS4 lacks is a dedicated camera button, which is present on the Z1. So if you're taking a lot of pics with your smartphone, you might want to consider this. Another area where the Xperia Z1 excels is toughness. While we wouldn't advise you to go and throw it out of the window, it's definitely nice to know that it's IP58 certified, meaning that it has some degree of protection against water and dust. The Galaxy S4, on the other hand, doesn't feature such protection. In terms of specs, both screens here seem very similar. Both measure 5 inches and have resolutions of 1080 by 1920 pixels, resulting in a breathtaking pixel density of 441 ppi. However, when it comes to their screen technology, Sony and Samsung have chosen two completely different paths. Sony is putting a lot of faith in its IPS LCD triluminous tech, and we can't blame them. The screen of the Xperia Z1 is quite impressive almost every way you look at it. With its natural and realistic colors, the Z1 is among the more accurate screens out there right now. Its gamma still has some issues, but overall, it's a great screen. The viewing angles are disastrous though. With the Galaxy S4, viewing angles aren't as bad, but color balance is way off, with an overly dominant green and way too saturated colors. If you tone them down using the professional photo screen mode, colors do get a lot more realistic, but they're still quite imbalanced. When it comes to brightness and outdoor visibility, the Sony Xperia Z1 manages to gain the upper hand thanks to the stronger output of its LCD screen, while the Galaxy S4 is way harder to view. Both the Xperia Z1 and the Galaxy S4 are currently running Android 4.2.2, and of course we're treated to custom user experiences on both phones. On the Xperia Z1 we have Sony's custom UI, which covers pretty much all of the core OS applications. The same goes for the Galaxy S4, which features Samsung's TouchWiz Nature UX. As far as polish and uniformity goes, we would say that Sony has done a better job overall, but in terms of bonus features, Samsung has created one really impressive list of additional goodies. Having the benefit of coming out half a year later than the Galaxy S4, the Xperia Z1 features the more powerful Snapdragon 800 chipset, which outpaces the Snapdragon 600 found in the GS4. The Z1 Snapdragon 800 SoC features a quad-core Crate 400 CPU clocked at 2.2 GHz, while the quad-core Crate 300 powering the Galaxy S4 has a clock rate of 1.9 GHz. Of course, in some regions, the Galaxy S4 also comes with the octa-core Samsung Exynos 5 Octa CPU, which is clocked at 1.6 GHz. We can't be sure if it's only due to the faster processor or the software on the Z1 is also helping out, but Sony's handset is moving more fluidly compared to the Galaxy S4, which exhibits some slight lag every now and then. Furthermore, the Adreno 330 GPU on the Xperia Z1 is also more powerful than the Adreno 320 of the Galaxy S4. You'll still be able to enjoy all the games and applications on both phones, but it's safe to say that the Xperia Z1 will be just a bit more future-proof in that respect. Memory-wise, both handsets are quite identical, as both feature 2GB of RAM, which is plenty of system memory every way you look at it. When it comes to storage, the Galaxy S4 gives you a bit more flexibility as it comes in 16, 32 and 64GB variants, along with microSD card support, while the Sony Xperia Z1 is only available with 16GB of internal storage, though thankfully it also features microSD card slot. The Galaxy S4's on-screen QWERTY keyboard may be a bit more versatile as it features an additional row for numbers, but everything has a price. And the price you have to pay here is that all keys will be a bit smaller than they are on the Xperia Z1, which doesn't have those bonus keys, but makes typing a bit easier thanks to the bigger size of the letter keys, especially in landscape mode. While the Galaxy S4 comes with two browsers, Chrome and the custom Samsung one, the Xperia Z1 has totally ditched any custom solutions in favor of Google's own browser. Having a second browser doesn't hurt, of course, but we tend to be fans of the more streamlined experiences, which is what the Xperia Z1 will offer you. Samsung's custom browser used to be quite useful when it was significantly faster than Chrome and featured support for Flash Player, but at this point we no longer see that much use in it. Otherwise, browsing is of course great with both handsets. As you can imagine, these two flagship smartphones are chock full of connectivity features. In terms of data connection, the Xperia Z1 trumps the Galaxy S4 by offering LTE Category 4, which comes with support for downlink speeds of up to 150 megabits per second, while the Galaxy S4's LTE Category 3 can theoretically go up to 100 megabits per second down. Naturally, you also get all Wi-Fi protocols, Bluetooth 4, and the seamlessly working GPS on both devices, along with DLNA and NFC. The Galaxy S4 also supports MHL and infrared port in order to extend its list of connectivity features even further. The Xperia Z1 comes packing some impressive camera hardware for a smartphone. For starters, there is a 20.7 megapixel sensor with a size of 1/2.3 inches, while the Galaxy S4's 13 megapixel camera has a sensor size of 1/306 inches, which is smaller. Meanwhile, the Z1's aperture is also quite wide at f2.0, which is a bit better than the Galaxy S4's aperture of f2.2. Focal length of the Xperia Z1 is 27mm compared to the 31mm of the Galaxy S4. In terms of camera UI, both handsets are quite versatile and convenient to use at the same time. The Xperia Z1 does manage to trump the Galaxy S4 a bit in the comfort department due to its better organized camera settings. But the Galaxy S4 kind of makes up for it with a plethora of different modes that it offers. Turning our attention to the images themselves, the Xperia Z1 tends to produce even better pictures than the Galaxy S4, which is already a wonderful camera phone. Details are significantly sharper in the 20.7 megapixel photos taken with the Xperia Z1. There is still a noticeable amount of noise, but on the whole, the data captured by the Z1 is a bit more substantial than what you can get out of the Galaxy S4 snapper. Colors are another interesting area to observe, as the Xperia Z1's photos are usually more realistic looking. That's not to say that those from the Galaxy S4 are bad, quite the contrary, but they are a bit too contrasting. However, we definitely don't like the way the Z1 overexposes certain brightly lit areas which otherwise appear fine when captured with the Galaxy S4. Indoor pictures are great with both phones. There is once again a bit more detail with the Xperia Z1, but there is also a slightly higher amount of noise. Still, the Z1 does seem to manage the color balance better in lower lit scenarios. When it comes to the video recording, both handsets can go up to 1920 by 1080 pixels of resolution and a smooth frame rate of about 30 fps. There is a bit more sharpness and contrast to the image quality of the Galaxy S4's video, while the Z1 once again sticks to a slightly more realistic image. There isn't such a big difference between the two though. The Sony Xperia Z1 and Samsung Galaxy S4 are true multimedia powerhouses. With both of them featuring massive 5-inch 1080p displays, you can imagine that they will be absolutely fantastic for video playback. This is another area where it will be up to you to decide if you'd prefer the Galaxy S4's contrasting and vivid visuals or the Xperia Z1's more natural color balance. As far as music playback is concerned, you have Google's Play Music app with both of them, as well as Sony's and Samsung's custom music players respectively. Both of them are good and represent what the companies stand for. Samsung's music app sports a lot of settings and features, while Sony's Walkman music player is cleaner and a bit more modern. The Xperia Z1 isn't the best phone to make calls with, and neither is the Galaxy S4. That said, they both deliver sufficient loudness and decent level of quality through their earpieces. Their microphones are also capable enough in order to transmit your voice in an easy-to-comprehend manner. Both loudspeakers are good enough for making normal conversations, though the added power of the GS4's one is a plus. Samsung likes to stuff its smartphones with beefy batteries, but the larger size of the Xperia Z1 has allowed Sony to equip its device with an even larger unit. In this case, we're looking at a 2600 mAh battery in the Galaxy S4 and a 3000 mAh battery in the Xperia Z1. Even then, the Galaxy S4 is rated to achieve a slightly better 3G talk time of 17 hours versus the Z1's 15 hours. In terms of standby though, the Z1 should prove to last much longer, as official specs are claiming the spectacular 35 days in 3G and 31 days in 4G environment. For the S4, these numbers stand at 15 days in 3G and 13 days in 4G. It's undeniable that the Xperia Z1 sports some technological advantages due to coming out about half a year later than the Galaxy S4. With a faster chipset and a better camera, Sony's smartphone is arguably the better device of the two here. Still, we have to give credit where credit is due, and in this case, we'll give it to the Galaxy S4 for holding up so well after all these months. Samsung's handset doesn't lag too much behind in any area and is still among the best smartphones money can buy right now. If you are currently rocking a GS4 and are wondering if you should upgrade to the Xperia Z1, mainly for its technological advantages, we would say that it's not really worth it because the differences really aren't so big. If you happen to be choosing between the two, then it's already become clear that the Z1 is the overall better smartphone, though you should definitely keep in mind that it's quite a bit bulkier than the Galaxy S4. Thank you for watching our video comparison between the Sony Xperia Z1 and the Samsung Galaxy S4. If you'd like to learn more about these two handsets, visit us at PhoneArena.com.